Hi there. Okay, so I have the pleasure of introducing our first afternoon speakers in this room, of course. We have Carol and Charlie Clupny, and I'm just going to read a little bio for them before they begin. We have when Carol Clupny was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease at age 50, she slowed down, but she never stopped moving. She and her husband Charlie retired from lifetime careers as speech-language pathologists and took to the road, literally, by walking ancient pilgrimage trails in France and Spain and riding bicycles to raise money for Parkinson's causes. In this presentation, they will share their journey that started nearly 14 years ago with Carol's diagnosis and continues with her treatments and increases in difficulty as the symptoms advance. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. I get to go first.
No, I get to go first.
Hey, my name is in bold.
But my name is listed first.
Okay. Ladies go first.
Your wife trained you well. Okay. Quiet audience. Good, they're listening. Before I start, I need to give a disclosure. And I will receive a stipend for speaking today, and which I may or may not share with Charlie, depending how well he does. I also receive some revenue from my sale of books, and I am affiliated with the Davis Finney Foundation for Parkinson's and the Parkinson's Resources of Oregon. I volunteer for them, and every once in a while they give me a little stipend to pay for some gas or something, but I am volunteer for them. So yay, I got to figure out what we're going to do here. So yay, we're here. Oh, I get to talk to you. That's another victory for me because one of my goals in life is to share my story with as many people as I can. 32 years as an SLP, I went to a lot of conferences to get my CEUs. And some of you here today are getting your CEUs, and some of the people on Zoom are getting their CEUs, and some of you are students. I had to do the CEUs to keep my Cs, my Certificate of Clinical Competence from MSHA. I also had to have Oregon licensure as a speech pathologist. I had to have a public school teaching certificate, and I got an administrator's license. So I was going to a lot of meetings to get my CEUs. I have not been in this venue before for a meeting. Has anybody here been in this venue before for a meeting? Nope? Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you a story about one time when I visited a venue that I'd been to before. After I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, Charlie and I started to go to meetings and conferences to learn more about Parkinson's. And one time, he drove me down the Columbia River Gorge to Portland. It was pouring rain, and he pulled up next to this building, and I went inside. And it was a venue I had been in as a speech path many times to work on my CEUs. But this time, I saw a lot of different people. There were young people and older people and walkers and service dogs and wheelchairs. And I walked up to the back of that room and I put my arms out like this and I said, "These are my people now." And there was a table right over there and the people there clapped. And then everybody in the whole place turned around and looked to see what they were clapping about. And I wanted to hide because having Parkinson's was so new to me. Charlie, who was watching from behind, came over and sat at the table with all the people that were clapping. And I sat there too. And the moment I sat down in the chair, I left my world as an SLP behind, and I became a person with Parkinson's disease. I feel a huge responsibility towards you, people who are going to be out there working with all sorts of people with communication disorders. I have to tell you that Parkinson's is a really crummy disease. You have to know that this disease is degenerative, and so that means I'm not going to get better. But as specialists in communication, you're going to be assigned to help me anyway. You're going to be asked to help me with my communication skills so I can live a life to its fullest. Charlie's going to turn the page for me. Okay. You're going to teach me to swallow so I don't aspirate and get pneumonia. You'll teach me how to speak loudly and with intent so my needs are heard. You have the most important job in the role as a team member. How about this? Is this working? Okay. I'm right here. Charlie's here for a reason. You're going to teach me how to maintain my communication skills. And because of that, my quality of life is going to be better. And Charlie's quality of life will be better too, because I'll be able to talk to him. Okay. So today, because you're students and you're learning, and because some of you need to get your CEUs too, we're going to give you a little bit of information about Parkinson's, and then we're going to talk a lot about how I deal with Parkinson's in my life. Okay. In your role as an SLP, no matter what setting you work in, is it the university, the hospital, the clinic, or if you have to drive 50 miles down the road to your Head Start classroom, you are the most important members of the team in that setting. Without communication, my quality of life is compromised, and I am using everything I can right here in front of you, everything that I've learned and all the strength that I've built up from all my exercises to be able to talk to you. Okay. She wants you. Okay. And you will see how you can use all your skills that you've accomplished through learning and through your experience to help me have a better quality of life. So I'm going to ask Charlie to take it away.
Thank you, Carol. So, you know that Parkinson's disease information didn't even start to be tracked until 1978, according to the Parkinson's Foundation? Think about that. Well, in 1978, that's when I started in speech pathology for my big boy job. Okay, but think about all the other diseases out there. 1978. I brought my page turner too. Okay. Let's talk about prevalence. As of 3 years ago, when we went to the World Parkinson's Congress, there were 1 million people with the disease in the United States. And that's according to Hamilton and Yang, for those of you that want to reference, 2019. Okay. Men are 1.37 times more likely to get Parkinson's disease than women. At that time, 3 years ago, it was the second most common neurodegenerative disease in the United States. But let me tell you this, an update from the Neurodegenerative Diseases Club, if you want to call it, in 2018 indicated that it's becoming more prevalent than even Alzheimer's, ALS, and MS. Get this. Look at your watch. Every 9 minutes, somebody is diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in the United States. That translates to 60,000 people a year. 60,000. Parkinson's prevalence increases with age, again, according to Hamilton and Yang, 2019. And we've got a little map here, and Carol's going to talk to you about Montana versus some other states.
Okay, so here's your map of prevalence by states. And you'll note that Montana is a lower prevalence of Parkinson's patients. But you look at states like Washington and California and Texas, and they have a high prevalence of Parkinson's disease. Why do you think that is? Population size could be part of it. How about agriculture? These states are really known for a lot of agriculture, fruit growing. California, they grow everything in California. And so where you have agriculture, you have pesticides. So that is, why some of these states have more prevalence of Parkinson's than others. And now there's a lot of lawsuits out concerning pesticides and their impact on people with Parkinson's.
So, 90% of Parkinson's patients are on Medicare. 90%. So who's footing the bill? The United States government. Who's doing that? The taxpayers. Right?
Okay.
So let's move on to the description of Parkinson's. And so I'm going to come out here and ask for a little audience participation. Don't worry, I don't bite, but I do have a mic, so I'd ask you to talk into it. And is there anybody here that can tell me what they think Parkinson's disease is? What's the definition of it? I've got a brave one. You get an A, I'll tell Amy, okay?
Wait till I answer before I do that.
No. You stuck your hand up.
I believe it's a reduction in dopamine from the substantia. I forget the name of it.
That's okay. Thank you. You're brave. Somebody else. Who else? Come on, take a stab at it. That's what going to school's all about. I know I've got 40 years worth of chances here. Sometimes they were successful, sometimes they weren't. Who else has a definition of Parkinson's disease? Anybody? Anybody? Carol, we only got one.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, we better do some teaching here.
Yeah, I guess so.
So there's a definition here. This comes from the dictionary. Okay. Parkinson's disease is a chronic progressive neurological disease, chiefly of later life, that is linked to decreased dopamine production in the substantia nigra, and it's marked especially by tremor of resting muscles, rigidity, slowness of movement, impaired balance, and a shuffling of gait. There is no cure. I did a little survey of some of my friends with Parkinson's, and I asked 50 women what their definition would be of Parkinson's disease. I'm going to read them to you, what they experienced. Okay. This is from Tracy. She says, "This disease has completely changed my life. My body movements, my speech, my personality. Nothing I do is automatic anymore. Everything has to be slow and with intent, and so at the end of the day, I am exhausted." My friend Jill, "Living like you're swimming through mud. You fight the thick currents and have no idea what is going to come bite you next." And Frances says, "It's not just a movement disorder. A lot of our symptoms are invisible to other people. We can look perfectly fine and be told, 'You don't look like you are a person with Parkinson's.' All the while, symptoms are out of control. We can live in two different worlds at any minute. We are strong, but we are vulnerable. Here's a picture here of an iceberg.
So, I want you to remember a word, trap. When a person's got Parkinson's disease, they're in a trap. And it's an acronym, okay? And we're talking about symptoms here. The T stands for tremors. The R stands for rigidity. The A stands for akinesis, which is basically a generalized clumsiness. And you probably all come across bradykinesia, which is a slow movement. Okay? We experience these things. Not daily, but we experience them. And then there's freezing, which just before she had her battery changed out, she was starting to freeze. And that is a decreased ability to start a movement. Just think about that. You're sitting in your chair, and then you can't get up. You need to go out the door of your house, and you can't go through the threshold. Okay? This is just the tip of the iceberg. Carol?
Okay. So the women I just read about to you, they say that the non-motor symptoms of Parkinson's are much more problematic than those trap symptoms that Charlie talked about. So there's all these things. I think that Parkinson's affects every system in our body. So the major symptoms of the disease are identified by constipation, sleep disorders, a masked face, small illegible handwriting, speech disorder, cramping in the muscles, involuntary movements, a loss of smell, falling, hallucinations, executive functioning, vision issues, anxiety, compulsivity, vivid dreams, daytime sleepiness, fainting, dizziness, depression, freezing, word finding, sexual dysfunction, drooling, swallowing issues, sweaty body aches, bladder issues. Okay? So imagine if having all those kinds of issues and other people don't see them and they don't realize that you are more than just this trembling hand. All right. So there's a traditional picture that goes with Parkinson's, and it's this old man. And if you were to Google Parkinson's, you'd probably still see this picture there. But it doesn't really represent the people that are having Parkinson's now, because people are getting diagnosed at a much earlier age than they used to be.
And so it says down there, when you've met a person with Parkinson's, you've only met one person with Parkinson's, because it manifests itself very differently in each person that Parkinson's disease affects.
Okay. So I'm going to show you a picture of what I would like Parkinson's to look like. I would like Parkinson's to look like I can kayak, or I can hike, or I can ride my trike, or I can write a book. But I can't do all these things without therapy and exercise and nutrition and medication, and I happen to have a deep brain stimulator, what I'll talk to you about a little bit. So this is just a picture of what I would dream that every person with Parkinson's would do. I'm going to read to you now a section from my book, and as I'm reading, I want you to do a little tally and see how many Parkinson's symptoms that you can hear me tell about I experienced in this day. The first part of the story is what other people were seeing of me during the day. So they saw me do all these things. And then in the second part of the story is how I felt when I did them. So I got up, I took my 7 a.m. meds, I ate breakfast, I took my kid to school, I rode my bike 3 miles to the gym, I worked out 30 minutes, I rode my bike home. I put a load of laundry in the machine, showered, took medication, went for a massage, Went to a friend's house practicing styling my hair left-handed because my right hand was so affected. I drove to another friend's house to practice church music. I drove home, took my meds, ate dinner, got my guitar, and went to the assisted living. I played my guitar in a jam for 3 hours, went home, snacked, took meds, fell asleep on the couch. Okay, so that's what other people saw me doing. Now, see how many Parkinson's symptoms you can find here. Can a person with Parkinson's do all that? That was a pretty busy day, but here are some punctuations you don't see in that description. When I got up, I was frozen to my bed. I could not move my body. I called for my husband to come and help me out. I leaned against a wall for support and just barely made it to the toilet without losing the contents of my bladder. After my son got out of the car at school, I sat in the parking lot trying to figure out where I was and how to get home. I couldn't carry the full baskets of dirty laundry, so I split the dirty laundry into manageable loads. It took me 3 tries to get my bra on straight. It felt great to ride the bike. There was no pain in my back or in my hip, but to get on and off my bike, I needed to lay it down softly on the road so as not to scratch it and step across the frame. My right foot froze, and so I had to lean on a telephone pole to pick it up and move it across the bike to step on the pedal. In the shower, I held onto the bar for balance, and reaching for the bottom of my feet without letting go was impossible. A sheet shielded my body from the view as the massage therapist struggled to roll me over on the table. And it was great fun to play my guitar and practice church music. Then, getting ready to go to the music jam, I couldn't zip up the little side zippers on my boots. I wanted to put on a little eyeliner and mascara. What a joke. The eyeliner went on zigzagged, and the mascara applicator missed my eyelashes altogether. My arrival at the assisted living center where the old-time fiddlers were performing was announced when I dropped my overstuffed guitar bag. Capo, tuner, picks were under my chair, under other musicians' chairs, and some picks even escaped into the audience. I was so exhausted. I played only every other song. When my hand trembled badly, it was a good time to just tap along on my guitar like it was a drum. The stiffness from sitting made me feel the forces of gravity 100-fold as I tried to get out of the chair. It took concerted effort to get everything packed up in my guitar case, backpack, get the zippers it closed, on it, back, swing it back on my back, and stand up straight. I had to move slowly from the table to table, grabbing for assistance until I could walk out the door, get in my car, and get home. Okay. How many did you get?
I counted like 16, but I mean,
Yeah, there was a lot of them. Okay. Anybody else? 20? Okay, so you could see how difficult it was for me to do all those things during that day, and yet people around me say, Carol, you look so good. You don't look like you have Parkinson's. And that's really kind of a hard comment to take sometimes. Okay.
So I'm going to talk about diagnosis now. Okay. So I used to use the self as a speech pathologist, and I used to use the PLS-5 and the good old standardized tests and my language sampling and break it apart. Well, get this about diagnosis. So this is according to the Parkinson's Foundation. There is no one way to diagnose Parkinson's disease. I will say that again. There is no one way to diagnose Parkinson's disease. There are various symptoms and diagnostic tests used in combination. A diagnosis in the early stages is very, very difficult. A skilled practitioner can come to a reasonable conclusion through a health history, complete neurological evaluations, then of observation for the following: the shaking tremor, the tremor in your eye, tremor in your mouth, slowness of movement, remember bradykinesia, stiffness or rigidity of the arms, the legs, or the trunk, Trouble with balance. Carol's fallen.
Times.
And then your MRIs, your CAT scans to look and see if there's any other kind of issue going on. Often the first person to make the diagnosis are your primary physician or an internist, and many people seek additional information from a neurologist, but a neurologist that has training, which is an additional 2 years, in movement disorders. So the causes of Parkinson's. Well, Abigail, is that right? Is that you? Yeah. Lori, okay. Where's Abigail? Because she came and talked to me. Thank you. Anyway, Lori, you were right on when you said dopamine. Do you know what dopamine is? It is a neurotransmitter. I didn't even have to say it. Okay, I'll tell Amy, all right? And this is primarily responsible for controlling my movements and Carol's movements. But by the time the diagnosis happens, guess what? 70% of that it's gone. As the diagnosis progresses, more dopamine cells die. Okay, the brain eventually stops producing the neurotransmitter. 3 contributing factors: genetics, environment. In genetics, there's genetic mutations, and 10 to 15% of genetics causes the disease, and the environmental is your body's reaction to the things around you. These interactions are the interactions between genes, and some of those factors lower your reactions, and some of those factors increase those reactions. There's also head injury, response to medications prescribed for psychosis, military service, exposure to Agent Orange. We know people that go to Veterans Hospital because they were in Vietnam, and now they're being seen by a movement disorder specialist at Oregon Health Sciences University. Where you live is a factor. Exposure to pesticides, the drift of chemicals. Think about it. If you've got a subdivision here and you have an agricultural field here, when did they spray? What is it that drifted over into the subdivision? Where the houses are, where people live.
So I'm going to tell a story.
Okay.
Although we have in our family some neurological disorders, my dad had trigeminal neuralgia. My brothers have neuropathy in their feet, and so do I. I was not recognized as having a genetic disorder for my Parkinson's, so I didn't inherit it from somebody. But when I was a kid, I loved to play mix-up. And I'd go out into the garage and get into my dad's chemicals and mix them up, stir them all up. And then we had these interesting little plants that grew out in our field, and when you picked them, you can make them like a straw. They were narrow on the inside. And so I would actually drink this stuff that I mixed up. And my mom caught me and took me in to get my stomach pumped. In addition to that, when I got a little bit older, I rode my horses out into the pea fields, and there'd be spray lanes, and they're spraying who knows what on the peas to make that more attractive to people. And I'm really thinking that it was probably one of these exposures to chemicals that caused me to have Parkinson's disease. I think I was set up for it because of the history in my family. But, and why I waited so long to show up, waited till I was 50. But probably 10 years prior to that, it had started growing in my body. The dopamine had started to reduce in its production. So, where are we going now?
We're going to team and treatment.
Okay.
I want to let you know, though, that I learned at one of the presentations for Parkinson's that the youngest person to have Parkinson's was 3 years old. So it's not the old man disease. It happens any time.
Yeah.
So, team and treatment. Okay, the first line of treatment, exercise. So what kind of exercise? Walking. We've done a little of that. Bike riding. We did a little of that. We still do. Boxing and ballroom dancing. Medication. Do you know that in 2018 there were 46 drugs being looked at and used for Parkinson's disease? Is that right? Did I say? Yeah, 46. But the gold standard, does anybody know what the gold standard is? Cinnamon, the generic. Carol takes carbidopa, yes, but cinnamon. But there's all kinds out there. Azlect, okay, extended release. And then there's a bunch of other drugs out there, entacapone, okay? Some of these are used because of the carbidopa. The on time all of a sudden drops off, and the entacapone actually helps that to smooth that curve out a little bit. But then there's some other things where they've developed some drugs now. Ambivi is the one I'm thinking of right now, where it's just like a powder form and they squirt it up your nose and it kind of gives you that jolt.
They call them rescue drugs.
Rescue drugs, thank you. How about surgery? DBS stands for Deep Brain Stimulation.
So you want me to talk about deep brain stimulation after we look at a picture of it, right?
Sure.
Okay. Go ahead. This is
Oh,
your-
okay. So do I get to talk about
Yeah.
the two places?
Yeah.
So we're talking about the basal ganglia here. Got to remember your neuroanatomy. But it's got 5 parts, but I'm only going to talk about 2 because that's where the wires or the probes are placed. The first one, and the most common, is called STN, or subthalamic nucleus. And the second one is called the globus pallidus internus, and that's where Carol's wires are. Okay?
So should I tell about my? Okay, so here is a figure of what the DBS implantment looks like. So I've been diagnosed almost 14 years ago, and about 7 years into my diagnosis, my medication wasn't helping me much anymore. I was having these off times that Charlie was talking about, where I would just like take a nosedive, and it wasn't like an hour or 2 before my next medication round was due. I had difficulty speaking. My cognitive skills were declining. I couldn't follow any kind of like a recipe or any kind of a sequence. It was really difficult. I couldn't balance my checkbook. And what really got to me after being a speech path for so many years was my inability to talk and express myself. Sometimes I'd come out with these total like stuttering blocks. I would try to get the word out and I'd go, ah, 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 ah. So it was getting pretty bad. And I asked my doctor, am I eligible for DBS? And she said, well, we'll wait until I see you in the fall. And when she saw me again in the fall and saw I was still having all these difficulties, she said, yes, this would be a good time to do this surgery. And I said, okay. She said sooner than later. And I said, well, what do you mean by sooner? She goes, within the next 3 months. I went, whoa, okay. So I spent a lot of time looking into the DBS surgery. I talked to people who had had it. I looked into my surgeon and his records, and I decided to go ahead and do it. So the first part of the surgery was, first, before a person has a DBS surgery, they have to go through all sorts of testing to make sure that they are a good subject. So if a person has other health concerns, they might not be a good subject for DBS because it is a challenging surgery. the first part of the surgery is they put 2 probes down into the GPI on me, and so that was deep in the brain. And then they connected some wires, and the wires come down the back of my throat, or the side of my throat right here. So you can't barely, see them. You would not know I had this, except for one time I went in to have my dermatology yearly exam, and the gal was looking through my hair, and she goes, "There's something wrong up here. You've got all these lumps on your head." And I said, "You know better. I've got a brain implant here." So that event happened on one day, and I got to stay overnight in the hospital, and I was released the next morning to drive 180 miles home. And I did fine over the weekend. In fact, on Saturday night of that weekend, I was really bored, and I went out to a local bar and played bluegrass music in a jam for the night. And I thought, if my doctor knew this, she probably would not be very happy with me. So anyway, we went back the following Monday. Actually, we went Sunday night, and I was checked in to the day surgery, and they implanted the neurostimulator in my chest. That neurostimulator worked great for about 2.5 years, and then I was watching on my patient programmer and saw that it was going down, 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 down. And suddenly appears a doctor on my little screen with a stethoscope and a telephone. So it's, "Call your doctor. You need to get this changed out." So I went and had it changed out and had my second non-chargeable battery in. It lasted about 3 years, did a really good job. And then right before we were going to leave on this big road trip in September, the little doctor comes up, says, "Call your doctor." I'm going, "Oh, crud, we're going out traveling in the month of September." So I was able to get in. I got some appointments scheduled for when we got back, and I went in, and I have now a chargeable neurogenerator in my chest. And so about every 8 days, I put a charger on it, sit for a couple hours, and it recharges itself. And this one's going to last me 15 years. So the technology has changed. Most people respond really well to the deep brain stimulation. Some people have more challenges than others. It's not generally true that people will improve their speech or their cognitive skills, but I chose to do it because I figured, I really wanted to move. I wanted to move more. And I figured I could work out the speech on my own, but that's kind of my DBS surgery in short. Okay.
So the 2 most common locations are the globus pallidus internus, and that's where Carol's probes are. Okay. And that is a target for the DBS. It's safe and effective. In her operation, the surgeon had gone to France to learn the technique, and he's done lots of these. But he uses a CAT scan, and he uses what was the other thing? Anyway, he lines up the laser, and he lines it up so that the probe follows all the way down to where it needs to go. The problems arise when a surgeon has to get in there and poke around for the right spot.
We don't
Okay.
want that. So here is a picture. This is not a very pretty picture of me. And I even got the sides wrong. I think that's the right side of my head. But I chose to have my head shaved and let my hair grow out again afterwards. And you can see there's some little scars on my forehead there.
Do we get to hear the story about the haircut?
Yeah, I think I'll read that story to you.
You might find it amusing.
Okay. I always try to poke humor at things that are difficult in my life. I'm going to see if I can scoot out here a little bit. So the title of this chapter is The Big Day, DBS Surgery. The clock on the wall ticked the minutes off slowly. My scheduled surgery time had passed over an hour before, and I was still waiting in the pre-op. Pre-op didn't provide much privacy, the patient areas being separated only by thin curtains that didn't even reach the floor. Eavesdropping on the other 3 patients as they went through their preparations helped me pass the time. They had been wheeled out one by one to their assigned surgical suites. It had been quiet for some time when the whisking sound of surgical slippers on the floor alerted me that someone was approaching. A gloved hand whisked the curtains aside, and a figure, completely gowned and masked, entered my tiny space. The figure paused at the end of my bed for a moment, staring at me. Then I heard, "What are you going to do with that hair?" It was a woman's voice speaking from behind the surgical mask. Perhaps she had been in earlier to introduce herself, but now I did not recognize her voice or have any idea why she was asking about my hair. "Excuse me, what did you say?" I said, "What about your hair?" "I'm here for a deep brain stimulation procedure, a treatment for Parkinson's disease, not another haircut," I thought. Isn't it short enough? I took a poll on social media, and all my friends loved the style. I had known the incisions would affect my hairstyle, but how, I was not sure. In preparation for this surgery, I had gradually shortened my hair from shoulder length to a bob and then to the current pixie style. I had fun along the way as I posted pictures of glamorous women with the hair I desired and allowed my friends to have input through voting. Diane, my hairdresser, had complied by cutting my hair to the likeness of the winning hairstyle. "If we leave it like this, when you get out of surgery, it's going to look like a 3-year-old took scissors to you while you were napping." "What do you suggest?" I asked. "Shave it off." "Shave it off now?" "Not now, when we put you under." "Who will do it, Dr. Burchell?" "Never," came the reply. "He's a brain surgeon. You don't want him cutting your hair. I will do it myself." I had to give this some thought. "Come on, Carol," I muttered under my breath. "It's just your sense of humor. You promised yourself you would remain positive and lighthearted." Thanks," I said to the mystery nurse. The gloved hand parted the curtain behind her as she backed away, and she was gone, leaving me wondering, should I have asked her to wax my eyebrows too?
So, placement in the GPI or the STN, they're both effective. The GPI has been shown to affect positively movement, but there is some risk of speech and it affecting the speech, but not to this lady, okay? So we've got infection that you could possibly get a reduction in cognitive skills. There are speech concerns with this surgery. So there are things that happen, and we do know people that have had adverse kinds of things happen to them with this surgery. Okay. So let's move on to the team. That's the combination of several professionals. Certainly, we've got the movement disorder specialist. Okay. How about your primary care doctor? You're a neurologist. You're a physical therapist. You're occupational therapist. How about the speech and language pathologist? Why? Because they deal with voice quality. They deal with swallowing. They deal with monotone in speech. They deal with breathiness and hoarseness. They deal with word finding, and they deal with executive functioning. That's why. So we know that there's some evidence-based therapies out there. You're looking at somebody that's been through them. We've got the LSVT, which is the Silverman voice therapy, okay? And then we've also got Speak Out, both of them evidence-based. But we've also got the social worker, the psychiatrist, the nurse, the dietitian, and the psychologist. But then there's the alternative treatments. I never knew I'd ever take a Tai Chi class with my wife. Tai Chi, movement, exercise,
Balance,
balance.
sequencing. Yep.
What was the other one?
Sequencing.
Sequencing, yes. Massage. She's got a therapeutic massage lady in Hermiston, where we live. She goes and sees that person. Mindful activities like meditation, breathing, yoga. She has her own yoga pad, by the way. And then, of course, nutrition. It's been found that the Mediterranean diet is the best with this disease. In other words, eating low on the food chain. Okay? Tofu's good. Asparagus is good. Broccoli's good. I like all the vegetables. We don't eat that 100% of the time, but it's certainly more of our diet. Okay, Carol?
Okay, let's see. I've got to stand up. I've been sitting here for a long time. All right. So what I'd like you to do now is move, because we have been sitting for a long time. So I have a song here that we can move to. You can move around your table, you can dance, you can do whatever you want, but you need to move for 3 minutes. When the song stops, you have to be back in your chair. Are you ready? Let's see if I can get this to go. I don't have any sound. Do we have any sound? Here it comes.
Lost your way, lost your cool, then you straight up lost your mind. Tried so hard
Can you
to
turn it up a
stay
little bit?
ahead, but you keep falling behind. Life is gonna pull you down, make it hard to see. But a little change in your point of view could be just what you need. There's always a reason to always choose joy. There's something deeper that the world can't destroy. Smile when you think you can't. Smile, get up and dance. Smile, there's a bigger plan. The storm only lasts for a while. So smile. Happiness is wonderful,
Follow
but
when
it
you
doesn't
give up
stick
somebody's
around.
shoulders and you go around the room.
Walking on sunshine, then here come the clouds. You can laugh or you can cry when it all falls apart. But I believe the more you laugh, the more you heal the heart. There's always a reason to always choose joy. There's something deeper that the world can't destroy. Smile when you think you can't.
You're showing my brain.
Get up and dance.
Punch at the table.
There's a bigger plan and you've got a reason.
Oh, I gotta keep moving.
When you think you can't smile, just clap your hands, smile. There's a bigger plan. You've got a reason to smile.
Smile.
There's always a reason to always choose joy. There's something deeper that the world can't destroy. Smile when you think you can't. Smile, get up and dance. Smile, there's a bigger plan. You've got a reason to smile when you think you can't. Smile, just clap your hands. Smile.
Almost there.
There's a bigger plan. You've got a reason to smile. Go ahead, get on up and smile. You've got a reason to smile.
All right. Okay, that livens people up.
So
a little
they move for 3 minutes to a song.
bit. They did.
Okay, I want to let you know that this lady does a workout for an hour every day, and you know how tired you are after a workout. It takes her 4 times the amount of energy to do the same thing you do. Think about that.
Oops. So, yeah.
I got a question here.
You have a question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
I was going to show this little dog first, if I can make him do his thing. No, I can't. There it is. So I get diagnosed with Parkinson's, and I'm going, what?
So how were
Me?
you diagnosed, Carol?
I was diagnosed. Okay, we'll leave him to sit there. He's cute, isn't he? I started to have some strange things happen in my body. I had a really bad intestinal infection, a frozen shoulder. My little pinky started to wiggle and twitch. Corner of my mouth started to twitch. My corner of my eye started to twitch. I felt like I was tremoring inside my body, and I'd say, Charlie, what's going on? Can you see anything? He goes, no, you look normal. So I went to my family physician, and he said, you are a middle-aged woman, you have a busy job, you have kids that are in high school, and they're really busy and keeping you a lot of time. I think you have stress. So he prescribed some anti-anxiety, anti-stress medication. I took that for a while and didn't do a darn thing. So I went back, and he said, okay, you need to go see a neurologist. So I went to see the neurologist. Neurologist didn't give me a diagnosis. He gave me some more pills. And he said, in a couple of weeks, if these pills work, then we'll know. So I took the pills, and one lovely September morning, I got up, and I was moving smoothly. I didn't have those tremoring feelings anymore, and I said, oh, crap, I have Parkinson's disease.
And the medicine that she'd been given was amantadine, which is a dopamine agonist.
Yeah. Amantadine was produced to help with the flu, actually, and they found that it worked with people with Parkinson's, so that's the first medication I was given. I think I'm going to go through some slides while I'm talking. Okay.
So are you going to go on and tell us a little bit more about how you were diagnosed? OHSU.
Yeah, okay. So I saw that neurologist. He lived nearby in a town about 35 miles away. And he said, I need to send you now for a second opinion. God bless that man. He sent me to Oregon Health Sciences. It took me about 4 months to get in there, but I had a movement disorders fellow doing my evaluation. And when she was done, she said, I concur with the previous evaluation that you've had. You have young onset idiopathic Parkinson's disease. So young onset at that time was under the age of 60. Now there's so many people that have Parkinson's that are under the age of 50. So young onset, idiopathic. I thought, oh boy, yeah, I feel pretty much like an idiot with all this stuff happening to me. Idiopathic means of known cause. And Parkinson's disease, of course, we've already talked about the definition of that. So I set out on my life. I tried to keep working as a speech path, and it was really difficult. I got really anxious. I would be tremoring. I was impatient with my coworkers. I tried to type, and I couldn't type very well.
So what did you do after your diagnosis?
Well, after my diagnosis,
It says right here.
yeah, I sat around.
Yeah.
I sat around a lot, and I had a big recliner in the front room, and I watched the world go by out the window. Until one day I got really mad at myself. And I got up and I walked, we had like 5 steps out of the house. Walked 5 steps out of the house and I went out to the mailbox. And hey, I can walk. I went back to the house. I made it. Didn't fall. That's fine. So the next day I thought, I wonder if I can go a little farther. So I walked out of the house, I went across the street, made it back, didn't get hit by any cars or anything, went back to the house. Next time, I went down to the corner. Then I went to the park. And by the next summer, I found myself walking on the pilgrim paths of the Santiago, the Camino in Spain. And we walked about 500 miles that trip. And I returned 4 times. Here's a map of what you can see. And this bright red, I mean the dark highline red was where we went the first trip. But I ended up walking 1,000 miles over the 4 times I went to Spain and France to do that. And I have to compliment Charlie because he went in 2018.
Yeah.
And he walked the whole 1,000 miles just in one fell swoop. He started in Le Puy, France, and walked all the way to the coast of Spain. So, I learned a lot about myself when I did all that walking.
Were there any interesting people that you met along the way? Any interesting kinds of things that may have happened to
I'm
you?
glad he's cueing me because I would forget to tell you about this. But yes, Charlie is going to give me this book because he thinks I know where it is that I'm going to read. So on my second walk in Spain, I was headed to Spain, but I actually went to France because I met a woman who had MS who was walking, and I decided to join her. I didn't invite Charlie or any of my family members because on our first trip, I'd been really well cared for. And on this trip, I wanted to show that I could do it myself. So I arranged this whole trip, and then I asked Charlie if I could go. And he was a pretty good guy, and he let me go. And I have no idea, we've never really talked about how scared he was that I was there or anything. But I achieved my goal. But as he said, you meet up with characters. And we were walking, my friend Leslie and I were walking in France, and we were walking through this village, and there were cars parked solidly along the street we followed to get out of this village. Not too many people were driving yet, and I noticed a small, dark-colored car coming towards us. Suddenly, it pulled over and parked right alongside another car. We would call that double parking here. The tall, handsome driver got out and approached us. "Clupny?" he asked. I was shocked, but I responded, "Yes." "What the fuck? You know him?" asked Lindsay. "I am Matthew. You stay at my gîte tonight." His French accent sounded seductive. Oh, wow, I thought, what is this all about? Who is this guy, and how does he know my name? We are not staying in this village tonight. Where is the nearest convent? We would be safe there. Then he leaned down and kissed me on both cheeks, like I was his long-lost favorite aunt. "Carol Clupny, yes? You eat dinner? You like ice cream?" He seemed to know a lot about me, didn't he? But now I knew. A few days prior, it had been my turn to find lodging, and I emailed ahead for reservations, writing, "Need 2 beds for American women." The sheet owner responded, "You want eat?" referring to demi-pension dinner and breakfast. And I wrote back jokingly, "Yes, and I like ice cream." Matthew was a gîte owner, but yet how did he pick me out of the hundreds of walkers he might have seen going to MSHA that day? So I'm going to skip a little bit ahead. And we walked all that day, and we got really into a lot of mud, and we got sprayed by some pesticides that they were spraying on the grapes. We finally arrived in Montserrat late afternoon, and Matthew's gîte was hidden down a back alley. We asked for the directions to find it, and he saw us coming, and he opened up a window to yell, "You are here! The famous Carol Clupny is here!" We walked around to the front of the building, which was now faced a blocked-off street. Behind the nondescript door in an old boulangerie was his gîte. He showed us where to put our muddy boots and hiking poles. Then he carried my pack and took it to a bedroom. Lindsay was left to carry her own. As I followed him up the wobbly set of stairs, which would not have passed any inspections in our country, I heard music, very familiar music. In fact, it was a song that I really liked. And because of that, I became really freaked. It was way too weird. Matthew could tell I was uncomfortable. He laughed and said, "You, Carol Clupny, are famous. I watched your movie on YouTube." Further discussion in our broken English, because I didn't speak any French, revealed that when I'd made the reservation, he thought the name Clupny was unusual. It did not sound American, so he Googled it. And what came up was my Camino slideshow. I'd shown it the previous year at a Parkinson's congress. And he knew I had Parkinson's disease, and I moved slowly. He had watched and enjoyed the music. In fact, the music I heard was playing from the video on his handheld device at that very moment. That explained part of the mystery. His identification of me walking along the street was yet to be solved. I asked to see his phone and looked at the tiny pictures of my slideshow whipping by. And then I looked at myself in the mirror. I was wearing the exact same clothing as I was the year before when we made that video. I had a pink hat, a tan long sleeve shirt, a red t-shirt, green shorts, and blue backpack. And that's how he recognized me. Now, people in my hometown recognize me because I have a pretty distinctive walk. And I'm probably one of the only people that walks around Hermiston, Oregon with trekking poles.
So what are some of the things you do now?
Well, oops, what's wrong way? Oh, we didn't talk about this yet. During the time between walking in France and Spain, the physical therapist that I'd worked with on my job, she constantly sent me articles about Parkinson's. And I got one that said that bicycling helped mitigate the symptoms of Parkinson's disease. So I wanted to find out about this. And I decided I wanted to ride a road bike, you know, the skinny, tired bikes when you wear the spandex outfits and all that, and with the narrow seats. So I Googled, woman who rides road bikes in the Pacific Northwest and has Parkinson's. And up comes this name, Nan Little. Nan Little had ridden this ride across Iowa called the Ragbri. And I had relatives in Iowa. And before I was done talking to Nan, she had me convinced that Charlie and I were going to ride across Iowa that summer and have a great time with the Pedaling for Parkinson's team. All right. We had no idea how to train for such a ride. It's a 7-day ride with 20,000 people, and you camp out at night, and it's hot and humid, and there are hills in Iowa. And but I took it on, and we rode 4 times altogether across Iowa in different summers. So on this ride, you put your back tire in the Missouri River, and you ride across the state, and you put your front tire in the Mississippi River when you're done. And so that's us with our tandem bike named Grapedo.
You want to tell them what kind of bike you use now?
Okay, well, I have another picture of that.
Oh.
Okay. So, now, what was the next question? What do I do now?
So what are some of the things you do now?
I dress up like weirdos, and this was an Evel Knievel bike kit that we were given the last ride we went on to wear one day as a team pedaling for Parkinson's Davis Finney Foundation across Iowa. So there was about 60 of us, all decked out in these outfits, and we rode out of town together. It was really kind of cool. So I had that, and I had just got this new recumbent trike. And so my story, as you see, I progressed. I had a road bike, went to a tandem, and now I was on a recumbent trike. And I love this trike because I can go out by myself and enjoy riding and not have to worry about falling over, getting stuck, my feet freezing, whatever. And I can go out without him. So go out with the girlfriends. You see in the background, there's a van, and it has the cover of my book on the window. And we've been going around quite a bit with this camping, and it's amazing how many people come up and ask you about your sticker on your window, and how many people know about Parkinson's or have somebody in their family or a story to tell. So I've been doing a lot of that. What are you going to ask me next, Charlie? Oh, rock steady boxing. So boxing in this, I'm not sure if it is evidence-based or not. I don't know how much study has been done it, but it's a franchise that goes across the country, or is across the country, and it has a lot of really good footwork, handwork, weight training, intensive movement, and boxing. So I attend this virtually from a gym that's in Portland, Oregon, and every day I can have a choice of sitting down boxing or standing boxing, and it's been very helpful to me. Well, you heard my story about going to the assisted living center. I still play music. I can't play any leads with my hands anymore. They don't work that way, but I can play a pretty strong rhythm. And these people here in the picture with me are exceptional musicians, and they're very patient with me and very kind to me and allow me to play with them. So this is out in our driveway with my van in the back. Become kind of a Parkinson's advocate, and this is a picture of us in Washington, D.C. Michael J. Fox, every year, his foundation does a Parkinson's Day on the Hill, and we go to Washington, D.C., we get some training, and we write some, what we call them, asks for our congressmen and senators. And this was cool. I love this picture. I attended the 4th and 5th World Parkinson's Congresses, and the 4th one was in Portland, Oregon, and then we went to Kyoto, Japan. And each one I presented a poster session, so it brought me back to kind of my speech path roots. And this is just a marvelous Parkinson's gathering, and we hope to be in Barcelona in 2 years. So during the pandemic, I took a lot of classes online. I think maybe people did here, if you were students especially. But my classes were more like Zen tangles and doodling, and I also took poetry. And anyway, I went crazy with these little intricate designs. And I can't write. We can't read my writing. I can't even remember what I wrote, but I can draw these these little designs. And so that is something that's carried on and I am enjoying. This is a picture of me recording my book for audiobooks. And the way this came about was I had some help putting my book together. That one, right? Yeah. That one. And it's been out for 3 years now, and I got a phone call last summer that said, "Can you do your book, narrate your book?" And I said, "No, I have Parkinson's disease. I can't read a paragraph out loud, much less a whole book for recording." And the gal who had called me said, "I'm going out on family leave for 3 months, and when I get back, I'm going to call you, and I want to hear your voice be better so that you can narrate your book." So I worked on my voice, and I just did my own things. I worked on sustaining phonation. One of the most difficult things for me to do is to project loudness, and also I had a lot of artic errors, just plain old not getting my lips moving. So I worked on all those things, and I used Fairbanks 1934 or something book. So some of those old materials still work. And this woman called me back, and she heard my voice, and she goes, "Perfect, we're booking you in the studio." So she booked me in a studio in Portland, Oregon, and we took the van down and parked it in a friend's parking lot, and I took 11 days, 2 hours a day, to narrate the book. And Audible accepted it. If Audible accepts it, then it's well done. So I was really pleased about that. It's one of my proudest accomplishments, I think, as far as Parkinson's is concerned.
So tell about the people that you admire,
Oh, okay.
besides me.
I don't know, Charlie.
I had to
Okay.
put that plug in.
What do you notice about this woman? What? She's on the floor. She has a big smile. Okay. I will tell you her story. She and her new husband were in Germany. They were driving a van with her parents and some other relatives in it. The van got stuck on railroad tracks. Everyone got out, but she was stuck in the van. Her husband came to pull her out. She got hit by the train, carried down the tracks. When she woke up in the hospital, she had a triple amputation. So one arm and both her legs were gone. She's gone through life backpacking, riding horses, swimming with the dolphins, and she's also a doctor of radiology, so she taught at the college. And 6 years ago, she got diagnosed with Parkinson's. Like, it wasn't enough. She says, if I can do it, you can do it. So like whatever it is in your life, look to Linda K. Olson and what she's done. Amazing person. This gal's name is Andy. I met her in Portland when I was working at a recumbent trike festival. And she has dystonia, and she's had it since she was 5 years old. She works at a bank, as an executive at a bank, and she volunteers to helping people with disabilities. She's amazing. She came over to me, and we had an hour conversation with her using her phone to lead into sentences. Her husband had built her up a communication system on her cell phone. Okay.
I'm out of questions.
You're out of questions? I don't know what our time is.
15 minutes.
We have 15 minutes? Oh, perfect. So do you guys have any questions?
So you said you were diagnosed at 50,
Yes.
right? But you made the comment earlier, talking about probably age goes by the growing body. Did you have any subtle symptoms, any viral indication for you that something was down low like this? Did you have anything going on that's not ordinary?
Not up until the frozen shoulders and the intestinal infection. At that point, I was just working along. I think probably stress. I had a lot of stress. Yeah. Okay. Did I get that?
Yeah, well, and the reason I asked is, my husband, and he's been diagnosed with it. We've been married for 20 years next month. And I was 40, and he's got a benign trauma, and that's all he's ever, his GP, gynecology, and specialist or something for now. And it's really kind of not really progressed, become something else. But recently, I've noticed kind of just, it seems to be more present. And one of the ways I can figure it out and kind of notice the difference or change is when he's entering something in the checkbook register. I mean, I have a hard time reading some of his entries. But he does, he writes and he'll cover,
Yeah.
So I think he tries to do some stuff there, just maintain that kind of order. And, but it's not progressed to be any other health issues. So as far as we know, it's a benign term all these years, but I think in the back of his mind, he's concerned that it might be diagnosed as Parkinson's. We just he's had it for a long years.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Yes.
I was just curious, so now are you both still driving? Is that?
Am I still driving?
Yeah.
I can drive. I don't usually drive. In fact, we sold my car just a little while ago. We have a van.
And I drive, and I do more. Yeah, I do more driving than I ever thought I would in my whole life.
But you enjoy it, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I have neuropathy in my feet, I don't have any feeling in the bottom of my feet, so it's like I'm worried about the pedals. And so we have just the van, and I don't hardly ever drive the van. We have a pickup, and I like the pickup because I can climb up instead of going down. It's like my sedan had going down was harder than going up. And but I don't drive like out on the highway.
When did they, I guess my mother has Parkinson's, and I don't know, she's probably had it maybe at least 10 plus, maybe 15 years, I don't know. She's still, so she was diagnosed in 2017, I think, and they thought maybe 10 years, she had it maybe 10 years before that, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But she's still driving, and so there's always that big question,
Yeah.
when she's not going to be able to. I've noticed like she doesn't drive at night, and then the snow, and then I've kind of noticed like the parking. Like she,
Oh, parking is, right, parking is like,
yeah, that's
somebody sees one of our vehicles and they'll say,
that decision, like how, like,
yeah,
what are
yeah.
the factors in like
Some of the
considering
things are reaction time, and yeah, part of it. And then, like, I can't turn my head fast enough to see oncoming traffic. And then I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to hit the brake, you know, so some things like that. And maybe she'll decide on her own, because that's a really big thing, is losing your mobility like that.
Yeah, I think that she's pretty, like, she's pretty amazing, actually. She's still, like, does a couple days of, like, spinning a week, and she goes to her yoga class, and she's still, like, she's on, like, the missions team or whatever at our church, and she's still going to that. And she transports my daughter, you know, to dance a couple days a week, and
Good. Staying active is so important.
so she's still, I think, like, that really gives her, like, a sense of purpose and everything, but I really worry about that. You know, my dad and I kind of chatted about that, the driving piece, and that's going to be a really, you know, tough one. And my dad he's doing a whole bunch of, he drives, like, 3 school bus routes down in Bozeman, and, like, getting him, like, I'm worried about, like, you know, he's going to have to dial back on something just so that to not leave her at home, and
Yeah.
so that to keep her, I'm worried about that kind of independence. It's a sensitive one, for sure.
It is. I'm glad you're involved with your family too. Our kids are far away from us. One's in Alaska, one's in Southern Oregon, so we don't see them, you know. When they see us, they're really supportive and do anything we need them to do. Does somebody over here have that?
As to SLPs, what advice can you give to us as emerging SLPs that will be encountering people with Parkinson's?
I knew that question was going to happen.
What are you going to say? You were gonna...
I didn't know what my answer was going to be. I just knew somebody was going to ask that. I'm going to say pay attention.
Okay, I'm going to say encourage them to be engaged with other people. Losing your social interactions is huge. As long as a person has somebody to go visit or talk to, there's a reason to live. But if you're not going to use your communication skills, go downhill pretty fast. So make sure they're engaged. If you can find them like a support group to join up with, or if you know that they're doing treble clef singing or something like that in your community, then offer those as suggestions.
Yeah, I was just curious from your SLP background, you said you struggled with speech and communication and kind of took it on for yourself to fix or help yourself overcome that. So is there one thing that stood out to you as an SLP that really helped you with your speech and communication, or was there a combination of things that you did that you think was really beneficial?
Practiced every day for hours. Reading out loud.
I listened to this girl down the road so many times. And I have heard her book so many times. I even lived the book, but
Yeah.
I don't ever get tired of it. It was really neat to see her have as much motivation as she did, and remember what I said about how much energy it takes her to do something versus how much energy it takes me to do something. Hey, are we going to do one more question, or we've got a couple of tasks here? You going to tell them anything about what you brought and are out on the table?
Yeah, but before that,
Oh, we're going to do that?
we're going to do this.
Okay,
Oh,
we're going to do that and this.
I don't know what this is. This picture is just really cool because I was out running on the beach. And running is something that I really, really miss doing. And some days I can't hardly walk. But this was in January of this year, and I just felt really good. I could run on the beach. So, some of you know this Dr. Amy Glaspie person. And I actually worked with her for a while at the It's called the Umatilla Education Service District. And she wanted to go climbing, and so I took my friend Mary Helen and Amy, and Charlie was our Sherpa.
I was the post holder. I made the trail.
And so we climbed Mount Adams, and we were about 100 yards from the top when Amy got really tired and sat down. And I thought, she's got to make it to the top. She's got to make it to the top. So I went over to talk to her, and we sat there and just talked for a few minutes. And I said, Amy, if you do this, you can do anything in your life. And by golly, she did, didn't she? She went on. She got her doctorate, she went to Ohio, she came back to Montana, and she's just really, she really inspires me in a different way than I inspire her, I think. But can you believe that? There she is on top of Mount Adams. It was pretty, and that was an awesome day. So we have a table out there, and if you want to stop by, I've got some books for sale. I have some little bags that are made up from people with Parkinson's, and I have a tote that is the cover of my book. You gonna say something, Charlie?
You've got something else too.
I got something else?
Yeah, you don't know that, but you do.
Oh.
So there's this little cup here, and they have tickets out there.
Uh-huh.
And I guess you're the default lady. You
Oh.
get to pick. Do we have all the tickets? I see them.
Okay.
Do I get to show them
Ah.
first, like Vanny White?
Okay.
Okay, I'll be Vanna White here.
Okay. So
Here's the.
wait. Let me finish this. So there's an email for me there. You can get the audiobook wherever audiobooks are sold. And I think that's it. Okay.
Carol, can I say something?
Yes.
So I'm Leslie Pierce Hopper, and I've lived in Oregon for a long time. I've known this couple for about
that long.
35 years now. I graduated from grad school in '78 also. Charlie was the membership chair when I was on the Oregon Speech Language Hearing Association board. And Carol, we roped into serving on the licensing board for a while.
I was the secretary of the state organization for 13 years.
Yes. And just an incredible couple, both in their service to their communities and to their professions, and excellent clinicians. So I had the opportunity to have them come to my home last month. I guess it was the first part of September, end of August, and I hadn't seen them in a while. So I'm emotional. Inspired.
Thank you, Leslie. I was going to say something about that. Oh, well.
You ready? Maybe it'll come to you.
Yeah, okay.
We got a bag here.
So am I supposed to read the numbers?
Yeah, just pick it out. Is
Okay.
it a number or a
Yeah,
name?
the number.
Just a number.
Okay, this one
So
is,
I'll read the number.
okay, there you go.
So this one's 3756377. Well, come on up here. We got another bag here. I love giving away stuff I didn't have to buy. 3756378. Hey, you got a pattern going on here, Carol.
Uh-oh.
Here you go. Thank you. You're welcome. I got a shirt here. Okay. Is this one size fits all? I got it. Oh, good. You broke it.
Oh.
3756371. There you go. And then we've got,
Ooh, I want
we
that
have a
one.
vest. State of the heart therapy.
Oh.
That's kind of cool. Wow. 3756359. If you left early, you lose out. Oh, good deal. And then I got a category sorting activity box. That's the last thing I have, folks.
Oh, you can do this.
What?
My book right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll add that to it.
All right. This is 3756356. Whoa! And then Carol told me this book's going to somebody, and she'll autograph it for you. You ready? Okay, here you are. The lucky person is 3756364. I saw it happening right over there. So thank you very much. Thank you so much.
When I go back over to the table that's down on the end there, I'll find it for you, okay? Because I got a good pen there.